With the flick of her pen, she writes.
Chapter 5, Intentions. Now, what made Larimar think that she could rid herself of Rowan that easily was beyond her logical mind. At this point in time, there were outside ethereal forces beyond her control that were conspiring on her behalf, and Rowan McIntyre was part of the divine plan. His own soul had contracted this fate before he ever came into this Norse-born life, and he was simply following the instructions of a higher power as he planned for much-needed rest and relaxation in a small town on the Oregon coast. He had no conscious idea how this small twist and turn in his plan would change all their lives forever. He simply trusted his gut, and that was screaming at him to go now. So he took out his planner and texted his assistant Michaela to set up all the details. She was an expert at finding just the right travel plans that would make an overseas trip enjoyable. And he told her to spare no expense. After all, his new love Larimar would be by his side, and he aimed to woo and impress her even deeper into his arms. These little things meant a lot to him, and he wondered why Alessandra had never appreciated that. How could she spite him the way she had? He tried to push the memory of her aside. Larimar was his main priority now. But how he'd wished that Alessandra could see him now. He was healing, and her pitiful attempt to try and make him feel small had failed. He was, by God, Norse-born, and his soul held many lifetimes of nobility and aristocracy, which showed itself in this lifetime as a cunning and courageous gentleman with a deep love and trust in his heart. And he vowed that trust would never be broken again. But how could he know what his plans really held behind them in the ethers? He had no way of knowing that, even if his intentions were such. But he made up his mind that Larimar McDougall was going to stay by his side forever, and that was his aim and his plan, betrothal and nothing less. Hell, he was ready to settle down and have some offspring, an heir to his small fortune, and a woman he loved by his side were all he really needed. He thought Alessandra was that woman, but no, she had other men on her mind, and Chance McGee had been that man. Every bit Rowan's contemporary. He had been hardcore old school and a cunning warlock to boot, but his power was gained from witchcraft and not hard work. Rowan had learned a lot from him, but did his best to balance his magic with realism, a thing that made Chance sneer slightly as he preferred to weave a spell and let the magic happen rather than working very hard for it. Rowan guessed that had to do with Chance already coming from the old world, where many eons of magic had formed a lifetime of ease and wonderment for himself. He didn't need to work. Everything was provided to him by his grandfather, Orlok McGee, and that suited Chance just fine. He could then spend as much time working with his coven, which is how he preferred it, and sex magic was how he had wooed poor unassuming Alessandra out of Rowan's bed and into his arms. And Rowan knew it, although he would never have accused Chance out loud. A scorned warlock could become a dangerous adversary, and Rowan knew it. Choosing to let the happy couple move on without so much as a disagreement or fight to keep her on his part. Let them keep their magic far away from me, he thought, realizing his blood was really boiling from this memory recall. How dare that bastard encroach on me, he thought. We grew up together. I ought to... His mind trailed off from fully realizing this intention, lest it take hold and attract an outcome he didn't want. He needed to vent and release his energy, and since he didn't have a willing partner tonight, he chose a hot yoga workout at Flame instead. While Michaela worked her travel magic, he would wind down and release all the tension that had built up over this sordid affair and his current business deals, which were beginning to bore him rather than excite him the way they used to. Maybe he needed a bigger change than he thought, he murmured to himself as the temperature in the yoga studio went above 100 degrees and he sweated it all out to the soft-spoken twang of his instructor. He wanted so much more than he let on to himself. Maybe that was why he loved sex so much. It was an outlet for his passions that he wouldn't allow himself to have outside the bedroom. He had to find a new way to have what he wanted, he thought. But then he realized that he hadn't really been very clear with himself or the universe with what he truly wanted. And so he set the intention that in between being with his love, he would do some serious soul searching on this trip. And as he sweated out the last ounce of fury over Alessandra and Chance, he settled into a long and relaxing corpse pose, falling into a light nap on the mat. He awoke to the chimes of the beginning of the sound bath and sat up in a meditation pose to take in the vibes from the crystal bowls. Chapter 6, In Love. What was she thinking? Larimar sat up on the bed, heavy from the deep sleep. She needed to get ready for the day ahead in the tea house and possibly pack for a trip if Rowan hadn't changed his mind. She also needed some time to figure out how in the holy heck she was going to let Rowan down. She shouldn't be accepting expensive gifts and trips from him if she didn't plan on loving him. But love is often unplanned and messy, and in this case, the so-called spirit lover was muddying the waters of Larimar's mind. And muddy as the bogs her mind was now, she thought, for she couldn't tell from one moment to the next if she should stay or go. I keep feeling such a deep pull to go on this trip one minute, and then the next minute I'm beating myself up for not loving him like I know he loves me. Now she was speaking out loud as she frothed at the chai for Rebecca's order. "You okay, love?" Rebecca looked at her concerned. "I've never seen you so preoccupied before." Rebecca was a regular 2 teas at a time client of the chai house and had been having tea there with her Woman's Coven specter and book for several years now. The coven was richly populated with witchy female authors writing the latest bestseller under the influence of Larimar's magical chai and scones. "Oh, yes, sorry about that," Larimar said, handing a richly frothed chai over the bar. "I've got something really pressing on my mind," she said, looking worn under the eyes. "Anything you want to talk about?" Rebecca said, concerned. "I'm a great listener and intuitive," she said, not wanting to press for details, but always wanting to offer her healing arts if need be. Maybe I should talk to someone close by about this. It might help, Larimar wondered, not sure how she could be helped when a magical lover had all her attention and a hot European lover right here in her arms had just confessed his love for her. What was she supposed to do? She just wanted to be peaceful and happy, she thought. Why can't I just live? Actually, that sounds amazing, Rebecca. Thank you, and I would love to talk to you. I have a break here in about an hour. Would that work for you? She asked timidly, for she had been so closed-minded to sharing her inner life with anyone, lest she be taken for some weirdo who had sexual dreams about a mystery man she could only see when she closed her eyes. But she corrected herself. These weren't just sexual dreams. This felt like the love of many lifetimes, and she couldn't just open her eyes and walk away from it. She was in love with a ghost, or so she thought. Awesome, Rebecca said, glad she could help, and a little curious to see what was going on, for she hadn't just offered her help by chance. There were no coincidences, and fates outside of both their inner knowingness had conspired to bring the two together for this reading.